problem for advertisers is how to speak to them, how to persuade.
This woman is alone, yet not alone. Even though her family may be apart from her, they are still a part of her, being judged by the care she takes of them, being judged by how clean and white she keeps their clothes, just as she is being judged by that same whiteness. So personal is part of her strength and their happiness. As a wife, she uses personal. As a mother, she uses personal. Personal washes whiter.
The Purcell mum of 1950s advertising did not abandon her husband and children at the garden gate. She accompanied them everywhere through her extra care and devotion to the wash, literally clothing them with the protective shield of love which other mothers neglected to provide. But though home was a moral entity with a capital H, it was still a physical one with four walls, and Mum was generally inside them, looking out.
Mum, sitting at home looking after her family, was filled with a sense of public pride and private satisfaction, certainty that she'd done her job well in giving the family the whitest possible wash, and certainty also that the family was looking good to the outside world.
This was the ideal. Homage to the hearth and its guardian, the homemaker. The rebuilding of post-war Britain had to start at home. The alternatives were unthinkable.
Throughout the 1940s, women had been exposed to a very effective propaganda campaign which told them how useful they were as land girls and as munitions workers. With demobilization, they were suddenly no longer useful. They were pushed back into the home, and a new propaganda campaign was required to make women feel better about that. The advertisers stepped in to fill this gap, and women, I think, were quite happy to hear that because they were feeling a little unwanted. But advertisers went a little further than just saying that you were important. I think they created a whole cult of motherhood.
This is Laura Davies. Sometimes she thinks she leads a pretty humdrum kind of life. But really, she knows she wouldn't change places with anyone.
Advertising and reality were not actually too far apart, because in the 50s, being a good wife was still the prime career. And being a good wife was written about. There were little tips in women's magazines about how to make, do and mend, and how to create exciting little objects out of old curtains and stuff like that. And being a good wife was important in terms of the eyes of other people. It was very real that if you hung your terry nappies on the line and they were greyer than the ladies next door, this was a sign of the fact that you weren't doing your job properly.
This is how his wife sent him off to work this morning. Good job she didn't see him 2 hours later.
Really, Jones, I can't wait any longer. You promised me that quote today.
Well, just a moment, Mr. Watkins. Where is that schedule?
You didn't complete, Mr. Jones.
I told you, Jones, I can't wait.
His wife's fault, really. He's had almost nothing since supper 12 hours ago. No proper breakfast. He said he hadn't time. What nonsense. Before his toast and tea, give him a good big plate of cornflakes. Delicious. After a breakfast like that, his wife needn't worry.
I'll fix you up, Mr. Watkins. Yes, just hold on. I'll take that 500. Yes, today. Goodbye. That's okay, Mr. Watkins. Not at all. Goodbye. Well, that's quite a good day's work. Remind me to take some flowers home to my wife.
Yes, sir.
Start your day the Kellogg's way.
Women in that period undoubtedly feared failure. They feared it because they had no alternative, but they also feared the criticism of other women. So there was always the mythical next-door neighbour who knew much better than you did what she was doing, who would be there with the criticism lurking in her eyes, if not in her voice. So women were constantly internalizing this criticism into a kind of guilt and whipping themselves on.
1, 2, 3. Stop at the bird I shop. Stop at the bird I shop.
Early advertising for frozen food had to steer a clever path around the housewife's guilt.
How about a nice bit of bird's eye fish? Wonderful selection, and the freshest you can buy.
Well, the most, I think, single startling thing about frozen food when it was first sold was that it was eminently convenient and not sold on convenience.
Now that is a wonderful idea.
To sell it by convenience would have been to suggest that it was a substitute food in the very best sense, and also to denigrate the housewife's role. It was very important that the housewife kept her pride and position as the provider.
This was all the more important for the 30% of married women who also went out to work. Birdseye were exceptional in recognizing their existence and in finding ways to overcome their particular guilt at using convenience foods.
You see, my husband and I both go out to work, so we often have a bird's eye pie. It makes a lovely meal, and it's so nice being able to bake it yourself.
Yes, home cooking really brings out the special flavor of a bird's eye pie.
They were at pains to stress that they had made it for you to bake. Your baking gave it that home-baked quality. And so the housewife immediately had a reason to be involved, and when she was involved, she was halfway to buying it.
But though they called it baking, there was no substitute for the real thing if you expected to retain his affection.
On the day Jane was wed, a doubt crept into her fair head. Her baking, would it be a success or a flop?
Never fear. Cookine is here.
Such traditional anxieties demonstrated the importance of baking, but modern marketing offered new solutions.
You never bought a cake mix like this before. It's new, it's fresh from WHITER.
Long ago, people developed a cake mix that was sort of a complete cake mix that needed really nothing added to it at all. It sounded a very good idea, would save the housewife a lot of time and trouble. Unfortunately, because she wasn't able to make her mark to include anything for herself, the cake mixes did not sell. So what the cake mix manufacturers did was to say, here is a good cake mix, but you add your own egg.
Don't add water, add an egg.
And by encouraging her to choose her own egg and add it and stir it, she felt she was making a contribution to the cake mix.
Marketing solutions such as these were championed by Ernest Dichter, American psychologist and advertising guru. He put it bluntly. We help them rediscover that homemaking is more creative than to compete with men. This can be manipulated. If he tells her that all she can be is a wife and mother, she will spit in his face. But we show him how to tell her that it is creative to be in the kitchen.
Here's a new kind of sandwich, Fuzzy Wuzzies, made with Kraft Dairy, the cheese spread that spreads like butter. We've cut the crust from this sandwich loaf the long way, and we're spreading on the dairy leaf. Cut the slice to form a long rectangle, and having removed the crusts, spread again, this time with lemon curd. Scatter the top with coconut, and cut diagonally, first one way and then the other, forming these attractive diamond-shaped open sandwiches. You'll find they'll give your tea table an extra sparkle your guests won't fail to notice.
Even processed cheese was originally sold not for its convenience, the time and trouble it saved, but on its quality and versatility, the innumerable wonderful things you could do with it.
And under the grill they go. Finally, a splash of tomato chutney in the center. And hooray! Sunshine Susie's for supper tonight.
But being fancy in the kitchen was simply a diversion from the real battle facing housewives. Cleaning. That was what took up most of their time. And they expected it to be hard. 50s advertising celebrated their stoicism.
Meet Mrs. Nash of Hamilton Street, Merthyr Tydfil.
I've always used Puritan because I think it's the nicest soap and the mildest soap that you can buy.
How do you get the best results, Mrs. Nash?
But with Puritan, plenty of hot soapy water and plenty of elbow grease.
But by the early 60s, even the Puritan ethic, the hard work which the name implied, was rejected for a new champion, modernity.
I'm going to clean my home the modern way, and the modern way is bright and gay with the modern soap. It's Puritan. Hooray!
She's going to clean her home the modern way, and the modern way is bright and gay with the modern soap. It's Puritan. Hooray!
Puritan, the modern home soap.
Puritan, Puritan, the modern home soap.
Ever since, advertisers have been bringing the good news for women. Their product, and only their product, will save time and reduce the load.
Here's New Blue Vim.
New Blue Vim is what I choose. So wonderfully smooth and kind to my hands.
New Blue Vim's my choice because it contains germicide. You know, it gets at the germs you can't see.
The way New Blue Vim lathers so quickly is simply marvelous. Contains bleach, too. Grease and stains just vanish.
What I like about New Blue Vim is the lovely smell. Like spring flowers. It properly cheers you up when you're doing the housework. I think New Blue Vim's grand. Look at the canister. So bright and cheerful, no need to hide it away. It's so easy to open.
New Blue Vim is the really up-to-date cleanser.
The job of housework has changed a lot over the past 30 years. New gadgets and new cleaning fluids, new convenience foods made housework a much easier task. And so what happened was that we increased our standards. Instead of it being enough for something to look clean, it had to smell clean. And instead of just feeding the family, you had to titillate their palates and you had to provide a right nutritional balance. So whilst housework theoretically became easier, because the standards were brought higher and higher, more and more products were needed and more time was needed to make it absolutely right.
Of the many high standards to which a housewife was invited to aspire, one has always been preeminent.
Talk about whiteness.
That's honest-to-goodness whiteness. White can be even whiter.
I've never seen such whiteness.
White strength for your washing. Live with white and love it.
Shining, shining whiteness.
Whiter all the way through.
Even white nylon stays whiter.
Just that important bit white. Double whitening power.
Whiter for Joan.
This is the white and white one.
Whiter for Mary.
Mary? Oh, you need these. What's with the sunglasses?
New Sunshine Rinso with sunshine whiteners. Put Rinso sunshine in your machine. Do all your washing with Rinso sunshine. Sunshine whiteners, sunshine brighteners, Rinso clean.
Are you just as happy with the whiteness of your wash?
This was an important question. It was not just the housewife's standards. It was a very moral fibre that was being judged in this battle between the good and the bad, the pure and the unclean.
Whiteness is a dimension, actually, of cleanness. Cleanness is the other side of the coin, but whiteness represents something added.
Dirt, of course, is symbolic of all kinds of things. Dirt is just matter in the wrong place. The question is, why have women constructed so many rituals in their lives for pushing dirt around to make themselves feel better?
It's not for nothing that people talk about cleanliness is next to godliness, and I suppose whiteness is the best example of cleanliness. And certainly whiteness in that sense is this restoration of something that is as good as new, is a very important symbolic psychological underpinning.
All the time you were trying to prove that you were somebody who took dirt seriously, resisted it, and got rid of it. In fact, it was very difficult often for people to achieve these ideals, and the advertisers had a field day there because they played on such a basic anxiety.
Clearly, in struggling to exorcise dirt, one had to recognize it wasn't all the same. Some dirt was shown to be relatively innocent, but there was also the problem dirt, which could be difficult, dangerous, even threatening.
New Bluebell's natural enzymes take out the wickedest stains, like cocoa, gravy, black.
But in searching out and destroying dirt, the greatest threat came from the dirt you couldn't actually see at all.
It appeared that as well as needing a new role once women were back in the home after the war, they also needed a new enemy. And germs replaced Germans as that enemy. And the toilet, instead of the beaches, became that unguarded entrance into all that we hold dear.
There's a lot of jobs you don't much enjoy doing, but they've got to be done, and you feel happier when you've done them.
They perceive the toilet as being the dirtiest part of the household, so in their role as the guardian of the family's health, obviously cleaning the toilet is the most important thing that they have to do. If you are conducting a consumer group about cleaning the toilet and one lady says that she cleans her toilet twice a day, then everyone else in the group will also say she cleans the toilet twice a day, and they will be lying.
What should a toilet cleaner do?
What I really look for is something that smells nice, and I think most of all that it gets it really clean. Destroy all the germs, keep the bowl perfectly white.
Cleans the pan completely and the S-bend. One lady told me that before she accepted a cup of tea in somebody's house, she would pop up to the loo to see how clean it was, and if it was sparkling clean, then she would be delighted to receive a cup of tea in that particular house.
Restrictions on what you could and couldn't show led to a whole repertoire of verbal and visual euphemism.
Nice to see them looking so well. It's worth being particular about things.
You're also dealing with social attitudes. I remember working many years ago on a lavatory cleanse. Are we allowed to say lavatory on television? Good. It was a product called Dot.
Dot? That's a funny name for a lavatory powder.
It was a powder in a revolutionary breakthrough, never seen before, pack.
Just twist and squeeze.
You squeezed it, the powder went under the rim in all those unspeakable places which our potty training childhood and anal retentive society had taught us not to talk about. But to save the great British public from embarrassment and worse, first of all, the commercial couldn't be shown before 9 o'clock at night when the children were safely in bed, and even then, to save the adults, you could only show the pack being tipped down, a downward camera movement from the top of the cistern down to what was presumably a loo, but you never saw it. In other words, the regulations then, and to extent now, protect people, in many cases, from things they need no protection from, were ludicrous.
But that didn't stop the lurid communication of the fear and loathing that lurked beneath the waterline. Domestos even hired Orson Welles to voice a new kind of horror film.
In every home, in your home, germs may lurk unseen, breeding, multiplying. Wipe them out with Domestos. Domestos kills all known germs. Dead.
Presenting the new Hoover Jr.
In the constant war against dirt, the modern housewife could increasingly draw from an arsenal of new technology.
The new Hoover Jr.
Electrical appliances promised to make housework something it had never been.
Is it?
But there was still a problem.
That is my wife. She's confused. This is me. I'm confused too.
Consumer durables like vacuum cleaners and washing machines were expensive. They couldn't be paid for out of the housekeeping, so the advertising was pitched at him as much as her, because he had to turn up at the showroom to pay.
The only sensible thing to do was go and see for ourselves.
Of course, once there, he didn't know enough about washing to say anything.
You're going to wash sheets at home? Well, of course we'd like to, but it's not difficult. The Service Super Twin takes big sheets easily. And Persil keeps them really white, gets them really clean.
But he was reminded that he too had something tangible to gain from buying her a new machine.
Is this the woman in your life, still putting up with old-fashioned methods like this? Or is this the woman in your life, the woman who proudly owns a new Hoover Spinner-Rinse?
After that, if trading in his old wife for a new one still didn't tempt him, Hoover gave her its final lesson in the art of persuasion.
And I want a washing machine, you know.
Mm-hmm. Get one of those direct from the factory, John.
Oh, darling, I want to go to a good shop and choose the best one.
You're right. It is an investment. Let's get the best.
What she wrested out of him was a top-loader, a machine which, though it beat scrubbing and boiling, still involved her as much as the machine. Ironically, a surfeit of heavily marketed top-loading twin tubs made British housewives among the last in the West to benefit from the truly revolutionary automatic.
Have you heard the news that's going round? Hoover have gone and found the washing machine that means the end of wash day.
Wash day? Just forget it.
See the most advanced washing machine ever made. The automated Hoover Keymatic.
My name is Herbert Hoover. Our company has just produced something so exciting, I want to tell you about it myself.
In the early days of TV advertising, women were addressed almost exclusively by experts. They told you what to buy and why. They spoke with authority, and authority was largely a male virtue.
We make this special recommendation because we know from experience that Persil's so good in washing machines.
It overcomes that under-the-weather feeling.
And protects your machine. And here's some really good news.
We recommend you to use new high-active Persil.
In commercial terms, the viewers would look at it and say, having seen millions of these things by this time, why is that man telling me that?
Cooking's the rich, fresh fat that gives you the golden touch.
Why should he know better than I do?
And the only way to buy young broad beans is in this pack.
Who the hell does he think he is?
All fish, all goodness.
And 11 yards of Christmas tape and twine.
Well, there you are.
It was clear the experts' heyday was over. Their language and demeanor were no longer a passport to credibility, and they certainly knew less about cooking and washing than women themselves did.
Well, do they keep all right?
Oh, yes, they keep perfectly well in the larder.
Do they?
It made much more sense to celebrate the housewives' ability to tell each other the good news. A new device known in the advertising world as 2 tarts in the kitchen left the expert with nothing more than a bit part.
Everyone looks for a square deal. And Jane certainly found it the day her friend came home with a new baby.
Sweet of you to do my washing, Jane. Detergent in the cupboard. Right. Oh, what's this, Jill? Square deal, sir. Oh, I've been meaning to tell you about that. There are no coupons or offers, but you get more powder. And the price? Still the same. The extra powder hasn't changed that. Better value. Best there is.
There is a formula in advertising called 2 tarts in the kitchen, which is sort of euphemism for 2CK, which I won't develop any further.
Oh, I've been meaning to tell you about that.
That formula came about because manufacturers wanted you to take their detergent or their cleaner or their whatever terribly seriously.
Oh, what's this, Jill?
And it's a very cheap, easy, convenient formula too. And it continues to work, unfortunately.
Still the same. Better value. Best there is.
The poor woman who is in the kitchen is at her wit's end because her wash isn't white. She didn't realize it until Nosy Parker came in and told her, but Nosy Parker has also got something which will solve her problem, make her hair curl, make her sexy to her husband all over again, and does all that. It's the conviction of the innocent and the ignorant by the knowledgeable.
Anyone at home? Oh, come on in. There you are, Mum. Now, I've got a washing machine, too.
Yes, it's lovely, dear.
I thought I saw this lightning in your kitchen. Lightning? No, what are you putting in your washing? Flash. Flash? In the wash?
Mm-hmm.
Why?
Because it gets my clothes really clean. Those extra soapy suds actually protect your machine, as well as doing such a lovely wash.
Super Ajax has the new bleach booster. Starts bleaching before you even start to rub. Does it really work?
Come and see the clothes I did this morning.
Clearly, the early stabs at the new technique were so stilted, even the actresses were losing the battle to keep a straight face.
What a difference! Super Ajax really is fast.
The solution was to make the best of the intrinsic comedy and give character actors the license to ham it up further.
Oh, lovely. It's going to cost you a bit, though, isn't it? No, it's cheaper than usual. Go on. Not like real meat, though, is it? Oh, you are. A Danish is real meat. And a very nice change, too, Fred says. Oh.
Not surprisingly, it wasn't too long before 2 tarts in the kitchen was itself ripe for parody.
My Phil always calls me his little dishwasher.
What do you call him, then?
Bone idol.
Hey, look, Tori, what's that? It's the hidden parrot. What? The hidden parrot chocolate crisp. Oh, fancy. Oh, it really was.
So it seems did the genre, because parody failed to undermine it. Dropping in unannounced, kindly neighbours in the 70s and 80s continued to find instant fault with the wash, but set matters right with a helpful household hint.
Don't you know about all-temperature DAS?
What? 1 powder for all that?
That's right. All-temperature DAS washes in hot, warm and cool water.
3 temperatures, 1 powder. You don't mean it.
Try it.
The format is regular, the format is ritual, the format is reassuring. I know how it will end.
How'd you get on?
Grand! Look how white my card is!
And everybody laughs at it, and always has. It's not that it's done that way without knowledge. People know it's absurd, but it's got the ritual revealing of information in a ritual fashion that people find reassuring, and they always have, and I dare say they always will.
Oh, it really was.
And the reason that it continues to work is that women let it work. So that although they might privately be rather critical of the formula, in fact, those commercials are researched and women say that's fine, that's advertising, and so the whole mythology continues. So in that way, women are their own worst enemy.
Hi, Karen. You've been busy? Sure, making the most of the sunshine. So why hang your washing in a shadow then, silly?
Mummy, what's a shadow?
I'll show you. That's a shadow.
Oh, I see.
But Karen, there's still a shadow on that shirt. Oh, it's just from the tree. That shadow's dirt. Well, you know that can happen at low temperatures. It needn't. Not with new aerial.
In advertising, you've probably got 30 seconds to tell quite a complicated story and get across a bit of information. So the use of a stereotype is obviously to put people, to tell people where they are and what the relationship is as fast as possible. You cannot create an original, multifaceted character in the first 12 seconds of a commercial.
Because of this difficulty, advertisers from the beginning fell back on other stereotypes. One was the beautiful but entirely empty-headed bimbo.
Good morning.
Morning, Mrs. Palmer.
Mrs. Palmer has a heart of gold, and she keeps it in the bread bin. Little golden heart of the wheat. That's the extra wheat germ goodness in Hovis.
If some bimbos delighted in their subservience,
Bye.
others delighted in their ignorance.
And he still teases me about the chopsticks. I'll never learn. In a way, I'm rather glad.
From Vesta, with love.
It was as if the bimbo and the kitchen towel had the same role in life and about the same level of intelligence.
Made to mop up like a sponge because they're double thick. That's how they're tough
And soft. And thirstier.
than any other paper towel.
Extra absorbent for neatness. And throw away for perfect sweetness. Only Kleenex kitchen towels
Are made to mop up like a sponge because they're double thick.
In the mid-60s, David Ogilvy, founder of Ogilvy and Mather, first condemned these patronizing images, not least because they were bad for business. With what was to become the most famous reprimand to British advertising, he would continually lecture his colleagues.
The consumer's not a moron. She's your wife. Don't insult her intelligence.
If the bimbo was increasingly seen as something of a liability, a popular alternative was her opposite, strong on sense but short on glamour.
That square deal, sir, for you. Value, all along the line. I can't stand those snobby women who think a powder that gives more in a packet can't be worth trying. I've tried them all, and I'm telling you, serves better value.
This strident kitchen know-all was a down-to-earth alternative to the expert, something of a battle axe. She had seasoned experience of bringing up a family, so was generally over 40. Ideally, to prove her thrift and shrewdness, she was Scottish too.
For floors you want Flash, does the job in half the time washing powders take. No messy suds to rinse. Oh yes, Flash cleans floors fast. And no messing.
Such no-nonsense conviction was particularly appropriate to bossing children about.
Have you had your breakfast yet? I didn't have time. I've got to go to school. Right. Sit down. You'll be on time. Doesn't take long to poach another couple of eggs. E for B. B for B. Eggs for breakfast. Nourish your body and feed your brain. You can't do a really good morning's work without a proper breakfast. If everyone had E for B, there'd be a lot more happy faces around. E for B and be your best. Does she always go on like this?
But for the ultimate in no-nonsense hectoring, Harris Bacon in 1969 created a new heroine, a remarkable premonition of someone who rose to fame years later.
Great taste, no rind, ready for the pan. Of course, if you prefer traditional British bacon taste, nothing beats Harris Wiltshire. Oh, how lovely. Is it for me?
But not everyone dealt in stereotypes. Some advertisers rejected caricatures for real characters.
Oh, for heaven's sake.
The pioneer of the slice of life was Oxo.
It's lovely.
What about supper? I'm hungry.
You're utterly heartless.
Oh, pull yourself together. It's only a film. And I'm starving.
You men are all alike. All you ever think about is food. Oh, out of the way, I'll get it. It's all ready.
What is it?
Beef and things.
Things?
Yes, things. Cooked with Oxo.
What Katie was doing, and with Katie, her well-known husband, or husbands, Philip, because she had a couple of Philips without anybody noticing, was to transfer her comparative youth and rather pretty southeast accent and all that, to associate that with the cube. It was not to say that we hoped people would say, I want to be like Katie. Katie uses Oxo, therefore I will use Oxo.
No.
It doesn't go like that. It just says, if OXO is used by people like that, OXO cannot, by definition, be that old-fashioned, that we were releasing the inhibitions.
During her 16 years in the kitchen, Katie was the archetype for the advertising good wife.
All right, Philip, supper's ready.
As that ideal changed, so Katie changed with it. But to begin with, she seemed to crumble cubes for one reason only.
Clever girl.
Man appeal. Man appeal.
Man appeal. Man appeal.
Man appeal. Philip, what really made you propose to me in the first place?
It's because I found you irresistible. You were the only one of my girlfriends that could cook.
Katie and Philip were no Mr. and Mrs. Average. For most of the 60s, they lived the high life. Delicacies with suspiciously foreign names like goulash and broccoli were served at elegant soirees in their designer home for Philip's boss. His executive lifestyle, nonetheless, left Philip time for a game of squash, 15 years before the sport became widespread, and the two of them were even seen at the ballet, though Philip was at least man enough not to enjoy it much.
I'm hungry. Well, can't we eat out?
I've got something in the oven.
Casserole? Goulash? I could do with a nice dish of goulash.
Do you mind, young man?
With noodles.
But this was all too avant-garde for the market. Katie and Philip needed to be taken down a peg or two.
Katie herself was seen to be a little too prissy, suburban, nace, for the kind of food that OXO is best for. I mean, somebody described her as getting too much of piped potato, doily land. She was getting into doily land. So answer, it seems simple now, is put her and Philip living in the country where all the piped potato values could go, and that's solid again, that's real again, that's why that move happened.
But though she exchanged chiffon blouses for Aran sweaters, escape to the countryside was not liberation from the kitchen.
You know, I could stay here forever.
Mom, I'm hungry!
Good heavens, lunchtime already.
Philip's appetite hadn't changed, but he'd certainly undergone a radical career move. What did survive from his executive days was his habit of giving out 11th-hour invitations to lunch for assorted workmates.
12, actually. Katie? 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 You're a marvel, Katie.
No, I'm not. I'm a weak, foolish, downtrodden woman who gets let in for all sorts of impossible things. No mother enjoys them.
This was the closest Katie ever came to rebellion. What was extraordinary was her outburst, not her capitulation. In earlier advertising, the imagery suggested that women were scarcely conscious of their own subjection.
And anyway, I can't tell stalk from butter.
I can. Stalk's so much easier to cream.
When they did ponder the fact that their drudgery went unnoticed, they rationalized it into some kind of tribute.
Men. They think a good meal buys itself, cooks itself. Still, I suppose it's a compliment to be taken for granted.
In the changing world on the brink of the 70s, the good wife's load was just as heavy, her life just as frantic. But with talk of social change and sexual revolution gathering pace, the dilemma for advertisers was how much, if at all, they too should change.
These are the things a woman builds. Grace in her girl children. Boisterousness in her boys. Strength in her man. And she builds with the help of Weetabix. Good whole wheat nourishment. Weetabix, the builder.
The message was clear. The foundations of society still depended on Mum, and advertising wasn't about to abandon her.
Oh, Anne Reeves here gives her family Stork Super Blend margarine, and she's been voted a Stork Supermum. Yeah. Hold on. Now why?
Of all brands, Stork tried hardest to prop up and celebrate the 70s good wife. Their ultimate heroine didn't just service her family. She now catered for the entire neighborhood.
Well, Bruce, when I had Tracy, I honestly don't know what I would have done without her.
Oh, she's a kind mother.
She is?
And she cooks lovely.
That's lovely, though. Well, you look contented. Carry on with your fruitcake.
No matter how many children are here or friends are here, you'll always find she's got time for you.
I
just think she's great.
Yeah, well, that's the best reason in the world.
But not all products could exploit the family through such tabloid emotions. A time-honoured alternative was to portray housework as a joy in itself.
It makes new green Vim whiten a sink whiter than any other scourer, and that's important.
This idea of housework as fun achieved notoriety and then cult status in another campaign.
Shake and vac from Glade is here. It's all you have to do. Do the shake and vac and put the freshness back. Do the shake and vac and put the freshness back. When your carpet smells fresh, your room does too. Every time you vacuum, remember what to do. Do the shake and vac and put the freshness back. Shake and vac, now in 3 fragrances.
I think the most remarkable thing about it is the way it survived so long. That brand was the most remarkable thing about it is it created a category which didn't exist before. People did not throw powder onto their floors and vacuum it up afterwards.
It's all you have to do.
And perhaps most importantly of all, when someone came to the house, or the husband came home, he could see that the housework had been done, and therefore there was some kind of reward from a third party.
It's all you have to do.
But for most women, drudgery, stress and lack of reward is the reality of housework.
Every morning, things begin to wind you up.
Most advertisers, not surprisingly, ignored this, but some did begin to cash in on the fact that ordinary women desperately needed time for themselves, though, as Birdseye knew well, stern words would be required to get them to take it.
A lot of women never have lunch, apparently. The excuse is time, or else it's not worth bothering just for me. Well, it is. You can have a nice hunk of cod in a parsley sauce like I've got here. So be a good girl. Have a proper lunch tomorrow.
Encouraging her to take a proper break was given further mileage by British Rail.
We travel intercity like the men do. Intercity sitting pretty all the way. So join us on the intercity when you feel you need a little holiday. Away from the boring kitchen sink and need you at. We're leaving behind the daily round and common tasks. Come on and travel intercity like the men do. We'll have a little outing now and then. So up with women's rights. Come up and be the night. We'll be nicer, brighter women for our men. Away from it all and home again.
This time for yourself ticket gradually worked its way into the most unlikely commercials. Domestos, for example, issued its own away day to Mum, who, despite Dad's incompetence, could trust the toilet cleaner to keep the family safe until her return.
Hello, loves.
Hey, look, I've passed.
Domestos kills all known germs. Dead.
This was the prototype for much that was to come. By the mid-80s, the more mundane the product, the more common it was to pep up the lifestyle and leisure pursuits of the user.
My life's active, but that only goes halfway to keeping me in shape. I do aerobics to keep really fit. I don't go halfway with my laundry either. Just clean isn't good enough for me. I expect more, and Bold 3 gives me more.
Self-conscious lifestyle was the hallmark of the new advertising heroine. Adding some aerobics supposedly made her and the powder go-getting symbols of the independent 80s.
So let surf get on with your wash while you get on with your life.
Some advertising even congratulated women for making so much progress over the years in turning time for yourself into a way of life.
3 years ago, when Susie was 7, I only watched her school play. Today, I'm producing it. I think lots of things have changed for the better in our family.
What has changed, without any question, is that ads no longer show women as though housework and domestic chores are the focus of their lives and the main way in which they get rewards as people.
I remember when I just ran the kids to school. Today I'm helping run the athletics team. Now that's a change for the better.
What hasn't changed, if you like, and maybe for the right reasons, is that most washing powder ads still show women rather than men, and that is simply because most women still do the washing.
Occasionally, men were shown helping out around the house, but there was always a carefully signposted justification for it. Giving her a broken limb of one sort or another gave him permission to do the cooking. But advertising was treading on what for it was dangerous territory.
If you showed a man in a penny in the kitchen, you could actually turn off a lot of women who automatically thought he was a wimp. I remember we did an ad for Cadbury's Dairy Milk where we had a chap washing the kitchen floor because his wife was in bed because she just had a baby. Some people missed the crib in the corner of the room. What a lazy so-and-so she was, and what a wimp the husband was, waiting on her hand and foot, and didn't identify with the situation at all.
Unperturbed and ever keen to appear modern, several advertisers in the 80s continued to experiment with role reversal. The excuses were no longer necessary, but the device was still controversial.
If men and women swapped their traditional jobs...
Hello, darling! Here, what are you doing tonight, then?
Cooking. Same as last night.
The men would soon stop dreaming of new cars and start dreaming of a new cooker. The new Creeder concept, for example. So, they'll have a delicious meal waiting for the breadwinner.
Hello?
I'll be late home tonight, darling. Just going to play darts with the girls.
I think in the case of role reversal, this is one of the very few instances where advertising has actually taken it upon itself to lead society. But then equally, so were a lot of other media. I think there was a supposition that if women went out to work, then actually they would have to be role reversal. I mean, I think they just didn't assume that women continued to take on all the things on their shoulders that they always had. In fact, of course, they do. So I feel that advertising was leading it, and then when it actually did put it on the small screen, I think women felt that that was not their reality and they had absolutely no identification with it.
Hello, Mom, I'm back.
Hello, Pat.
If role reversal didn't work, a new realism did. The price paid was that she stayed in the kitchen.
That smells good, I'm starving. All right, you.
The new Persil mum took as much pride in the family's wash as ever, but she refused to be taken for granted.
Right then, I'm off.
Bye, Pat.
Did you find that stuff?
Stuff? What stuff?
Well, I left a few things.
Oh, that was yours.
Aye.
Filthy. I thought it was to be thrown out.
Hey? Are you joking? Well, that was all me stuff, me kits, everything. Mom.
Oh, well. Lucky I washed it then, isn't it?
Advertising had made what for it was a startling discovery.
Stop being so silly.
Family life was grim. Until then, it had almost been taboo for the advertising family to resemble the real one.
Ask your father if he's joining us.
Mum said, are you joining us?
I think that means yes.
Oxo's new family, born of careful research with consumers, was different.
Potatoes, darling. Thank you.
The researchers did something quite clever. They said, if I was to say family or family life to you, what things come to mind, first of all? And of course, what you got was, the grind, drudgery, grief, arguing.
What do you know?
Washing up, isolation, tired, squabbling, making food, getting them to eat it.
Leave it alone.
I suppose in general, women thought that family life averaged out at happy. But it was only an average, and it was made of lots of ups and downs. And you didn't really appreciate the good bits until you compared them with the bad bits. I mean, one woman described it as war and peace, basically.
My Christmas by Alison. I got a lovely new dress, and Mummy loved me in it. And Nick got a super pullover.
That's nice, dear.
With a puppy on it. And Grandpa played Jingle Bells again, just like last year. And Jason got a smashing present that made everybody laugh.
What's this?
And Daddy did a terrific magic show. And everybody had the most wonderful Christmas ever. And Mummy made the gravy.
The current Oxo mum is the state-of-the-art superwoman. Society demanded her. Advertising delivered.
Working late, dinner in oven, start without me. Tuesday.
Juggling the demands of home and work, she evidently works harder than anybody else. Knows it, but accepts it. She's grown so accustomed to her lot, and such is her resilience, she ceases even to complain.
Good job there.
Say please.
It looks very
On your leg.
I am starving. How's the casserole?
Oh, that good.
I think the demands on women are getting more intense and more contradictory, and there is less and less time to meet any of them. You cannot be the perfect wife, mistress, career woman, mother. There just isn't the time to do it.
Excuse, Mum, we're hungry.
I feel that there is going to come a point in the not too distant future where women will actually have to sort of start to actually change the situation. This could be very positive.
Mum, oh please, Mum, I'm going and he'll be here in a minute. Oh, Mum, please. Thanks, Mum. Can I have the, key?
But it would obviously going to go through a very bad time before then when one or other of those roles just start to give way. And women will either retreat into the home or else, in fact, they will start to minimise the demands of certain roles, like being a parent. Or, in fact, couples will just be shared mortgages without any kind of relationship together.
Any danger of being fed? Actually, I won't have the prawns. I'll have the whitebait. No, hang on. I'll have the trout.
What's going on? Well, you lot treat the place like one, so I thought it might as well look like one.
Princess, be prepared.
But if they reach a kind of snapping point, I would have thought the snap for most women is going to be against the career and in favour of the home.
What did you say your dad did? Landscape gardener. And on Saturdays, he does archery. Archery? My sister plays tennis. And on Saturdays, she works in the shop. So what does your mum do? I don't think Mum does anything. Help yourself.
You don't get thanks for everything you do,
Come back here, you two.
but you know why you buy Flora margarine.
A phrase has been coined in the United States that we are returning to an era of neo-traditionalism. What this means for advertising and for women's roles is that women are going to be allowed to be back in the home. They're going to be allowed to only fulfill their traditional roles. The advertisers, I'm sure, will pick up on this. It will be implied that one could have done something much more exciting, but one chose to stay in the home. And as back in the 50s, when women were willing accomplices to being forced back into the home, I think in the 90s they will again be willing accomplices because the 80s proved just too much for them to bear.
Mummy? Mummy made the gravy.
Do the shake and back and put the freshness back.
Do the shake and back and put the freshness back.
When your carpet smells fresh, your room does too.
Every time you vacuum, remember what to do. Do the shake and back and put the freshness back.
Do the shake and back and put the freshness back. Tweet, tweet.
Tweety, tweety,
Ooh, you do the shake and back and put the freshness back. Works on rugs too.